freight efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.
Here in episode 34, Scott Sutarik, Vice President, Commercial Vehicle Solutions at Geotab, talks about what keeps him in trucking, the insights that can be gotten from data, how data challenges the notions of what we think we know, and how to leverage information to turn it into actionable data that allows us to solve problems. We also discuss the company's role in NACFE's Run on Less events, which have provided detailed proof of what is happening in the real world with fleets and the importance of continuing to push boundaries and being innovative. Today we have joining us Scott Sutarik. Scott's Vice President, Commercial Motor Vehicles at Geotab. Hello, Scott. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Mike, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, this is going to be great catching up. I mean, this podcast is about Mike Roth and Friends, or with Mike Roth and Friends, and we go way back. And I have an idea here, Scott. I mean, we met a good while ago. Maybe you can describe how we met the first time, and then I think I'll share how we maybe re-met, if you don't mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that works. So I started off my career at a truck OEM, International Truck and Engine, and I was a trainee. And so I spent 6 months in the Chicagoland area working in various departments. And one day my manager asked if I'd ever been out to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I told him I hadn't. And so he said, well, you're going to be spending the next 6 months there. And so I got transferred out to the Fort Wayne TDTC, which was the engineering facility for International Truck and Engine. And I was an application engineer there. And so when I first got out there, I was doing a tour of the building. And in the very front, they had executive offices. And that's where I met Mike. That was back in 2009, if you think about it. That was, 12 years ago now. Yeah. That goes back. And so I don't know, did I help you as a trainee or not? I don't think so. I mean, at the time, I was a little, shocked, at where I was. It was very different from, what I had been doing for the first 6 months. And so just trying to take, just a high-level understanding of everything that was going on. And so it was just a very casual meet and greet, but it was good meeting you there. And, 12 years later, we're still chatting. So yeah, and then, I don't know, maybe right in the middle of that, maybe 5 or 6 years in, we kind of met again as NACFE was getting rolling and really trying to figure out data for efficiency in the work we do. And so we engaged again, and you told me about that first meeting. I got a kick out of it. So here you are, Scott, you've been in the commercial vehicle space for a while, and, this kind of, it gets in our blood, I think. So, what is it about trucks in this industry that keeps you in it? Because you're pretty passionate and dedicated, given what I've seen you do. What keeps you in this industry? No, that's a great question. So it's funny you asked that. So actually, back out in Fort Wayne, one of my mentors, he told me, he said, Scott, if you're in this industry for more than 2 years, you're never going to leave, right? And obviously that's not always the case, but for me it has been, right? And from my standpoint, it's simply I love the challenge, right? The complexity, the evolution of the trucks and technology. I mean, it's always keeping you on your toes. I mean, I used to say, nothing would shock me in this industry, and I've been proven wrong over and over on that subject. It's just so dynamic and ever-changing.
Yeah, I think it starts with the complexity. I try not to think about things as right or wrong or good and bad, and because when you hear the word complexity, and particularly applied to our industry, some of us look at it and go, oh man, that's hard. Every truck's different. So many duty cycles, so many regulations that drive things, state to state, country to country. But on the other hand, it has huge diversity. And I think that, those of us that kind of stick in it for a whole career, we enjoy creating solutions given that complexity. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's a great segue about, my current employer, Geotab. I mean, we're an engineering firm, and we're really here to help solve complex problems, right? And that's what our senior leadership focuses on, and that's what we focus on. And it's a great way to look, excuse me, it's just a great way to look at it. So.
And so let's talk about Geotab a bit. I mean, data, I think you're part of helping us figure out what maybe the term big data means to trucking, right? I mean, how would you summarize what Geotab's doing for the whole industry? And maybe talk through it, Scott, in terms of what's in it for the fleets or the truck builders or maybe others like NACFE.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, so Geotab is a rather unique company in which we're privately owned, and all of our shareholders are employees of the company. And so we don't have outside money, we don't have outside shareholders, and we're completely debt-free. So we've been bootstrapped, by our founder, and have been fortunate, it's profitable enough to keep the business going. And so at the end of the day, we're really looking to make, be able to take what we have and utilize that to make changes, in the world, it could be safety, be environmental or whatnot. But I guess at the end of the day, what I'm getting at is we got 2.4 million vehicles on the roads, the vast majority of them in North America, generating a tremendous amount of data, over 40 billion data points per day. And that data gets pushed into our big data system, which we partner with Google on. And then from there, we're able to take this data and anonymize it, aggregate it, and then be able to work with our partners and offer really interesting insights. So it could be everything from urban planning, it could be environmental, it could be operational efficiencies, and the list goes on and on. But we have a team of 100 data scientists that we utilize for everything from fail fast, fail cheap type methodology, on proof of concepts, to working with partners like NACFE on solving problems or questions that they've posed to us. So the ability to do that, have that breadth of support to be able to answer these questions, in many cases at no cost to the partner, is really unique to Geotab, I believe.
You sell devices into the marketplace, you do analytics and all that, and I think, kind of at the end of the day, what I find interesting is you're able to separate opinion and even like experienced opinion. So many of us that's been in the industry, for a long time, we've learned a lot and sort of have, but some of it can be still very opinionated, where, we think we know, but sometimes the data, and I've been trying to be very open-minded about what I think I know about the industry. I've been in it 35 years. To let the data, prove me wrong if I'm wrong, or basically clearly change it. So is that something you're seeing out in the marketplace? Or, do you get surprised sometimes yourself with what the data is telling you versus what you may have already thought?
Yeah, absolutely. That comes up on a regular basis, right? At the end of the day, everybody has their, I like to say, habits, right? The habit loop, right? You do something day in and day out, and you continue doing it, right? You have the same beliefs. And I think one of the great things about data is that it has the ability to really challenge preconceived notions that might have been right, 5-10 years ago, or heck, it might have been right 6 months ago, but something changed, and you have to adopt with that. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, one way I want to talk about change and what's going on with, in this telematics and data analysis is, I mentioned it a few minutes ago. I remember when NACFE wanted to kind of expand our efforts to become even more data-driven and so forth. And I asked a bunch of fleets, I said, who out there is some of the, key companies that can help us do that? And most all of them said Geotab. So that was 7 or 8 years ago. So Scott, take us back. Let's do this. Take us back 7 or 8 years, and what was Geotab like then? And what are you doing, today? And I think why I asked it that way is that's a real world example that you're living and have lived to help us and the audience really think about, where telematics and analytics and data-driven decision-making's come in just a short period of time. So you up for that? Can you kind of describe where, and do the 7 years ago versus today for the company, and maybe an example or two of something?
Yeah, so 7 years ago, I did not work at Geotab, but they were one of my partners at the time. And At that point, Geotab was a relatively small company, less than 100 employees, decent amount of units, let's say probably between 100 and 200,000 units. I don't have the numbers in front of me at that time, but, it was clear at the time that they, at least to me, as I was managing about 15 different telematics providers at the time, was definitely one to keep an eye on. And really that was because of their engineering problems, right? So the CEO, and my CEO, Neil Cause, is an engineer. And so it was all about solving problems. And, once you solve problems, you're going to get more and more business. And that's what we've been able to do over the years. And so about 5.5 years ago, I joined Geotab. And, if you think about data at that point, we had one data scientist at the time, Dan.
Wow.
He was the only guy we had, right? So in 2016, we bought a small startup with 3 guys. So that was Mike, Bernie, and, at the time. And it was rather interesting. From there, we've just invested such a significant amount of resources, money into that part of the business, and now we have over 100 data scientists staff. And Geotab really leverages it in a couple different ways. So obviously we leverage it internally, and so we use that to make a lot of our decisions. Everything we have, from call center calls to invoices to accounts payable, everything comes into our big data system, right? And then that's how we manage the business. On the flip side of it, we've also been rolling out a number of solutions to our partners, or just the ecosystem as a whole, right? So we have something called the data science package, where customers can take their Geotab data and put it into a Google workbook, and they can build adapters to send it to their own systems, or they can write their own queries within our system, but in their own workbook, right? So we have that. We also have our Ignition program, where we take our anonymized aggregated data and we make that available for anybody with a Gmail account, and they can pull raw data feeds into their back end and build products as well, and we don't even charge for that. So just a way to get this data out into the ecosystem and let people who know what they're doing leverage it in meaningful ways to benefit human society, right? And then the last one is what your initial question was what we're seeing with customers, and it's rather interesting, in which everybody has problems, right? And it's how can we leverage data to solve those specific problems? So one of my favorite ones is we had a customer, a very large customer, who was having lots of electrical issues. And so basically what we designed using cranking voltage was a system where we can give a score to the health of an electric system, a 12-volt electrical system. So it could be batteries, it could be alternator starters, could be something wrong, a short in the system somewhere. And we give that score to a fleet or to a vehicle, and then allow the fleet to proactively bring that vehicle in. So we don't tell you what's wrong with it. We say, hey, this vehicle needs some help, right? And then a mechanic can do an electrical diagnostic on that vehicle. And we've got that to about 99.5% accuracy. So leveraging one algorithm, which was very complex, mind you, we were able to essentially eliminate electrical failures on the road in this fleet, which has tens of thousands of vehicles. And so that's just one example, and then you multiply that versus all these other issues, and there's a lot of potential out there.
So it sounds like the opportunity is to not look at data for data's sake, right? Not just say, okay, I want a bunch of information and data about my business. It's more about looking at the problems you want to solve, or we want to solve, maybe as a fleet or as a manufacturer, and using the data to lead us to, kind of what's the nature of the problem and what solutions might exist out there.
Yeah, it's all about actionable insights, right? How do I help that mechanic? How do I help that safety manager? How do I help that ops manager make better decisions, right?
Actionable insights. That sounds like a tagline for a marketing campaign, Scott.
Thanks, Mike.
Well, another way I thought we could kick around data and how to use it to improve efficiency and so forth is just talk to some of the projects that NACFE and Geotab has done together. So, so I've got a couple. I'd like you, maybe both of us can kind of talk through these to kind of give some insights. We're in the middle of our third Run on Less Electric third Run on Less project, which is all about electric trucks this time around. The first one had 7 fleets in 2017. We had 10 really big fleets participate in Run on Less Regional, and now we've got 13 electric trucks in Run on Less Electric. And Geotab has been a great partner helping us pull data from those trucks and push out to a data or a website dashboard for our projects. Thank you for helping us with all of that. It's been incredibly insightful, I think, from the market. I mean, how do you view the Run on Less projects and specifically around the role of data? Well,
I mean, going back, and you're right, this is the third one. I remember sitting down with you and the board and saying, yeah, we're going to do this. And it's come a long way, right? From the initial, the second one, and then now to the electric one. And I mean, I think that the data is powerful because it helps fleets understand the art of the possible, right? Like when we did the first one, can a diesel truck get 10 plus miles to the gallon? Absolutely. And not only can it be done, but here's proof, and here's detailed proof, right? And I think that's what this EV Run on Less is going to be all about, is being able to show the art of the possible, right? These are real world trucks that are working right now, and here's the data to back up, what these fleets are seeing today. It might be good, it might be bad, but this is real world, right? And it helps really cut through some of the ambiguity there.
Yeah, and while we're right here, I mean, I have to believe that it takes a lot of effort for a company like Geotab to develop a product that'll work with an electric vehicle rather than an engine one, right? I mean, because your device is looking at data on the on the bus of a truck, which a lot of that is coming off the engine, right? So when the engine leaves, a lot of your data leaves, and you gotta figure it out. So how did you approach a product? I mean, for electric trucks, and that's the product we're using here in Run on Less Electric.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, I guess so. Taking it back a little ways, so back in 2017, 2018, we had a good EV solution, but it wasn't best in class. There was a company called Fleet Karma that did have a best in class product, and so we purchased that company, and we got a lot of know-how, engineering prowess, and over the years we've absorbed that business into Geotab, right? And so we have a large group of folks up in our Waterloo office which focus exclusively on EVs. And it is interesting in which, when you get to an EV, you're talking about different things. Obviously, fuel economy is a little different. The fuel used is non-existent, right? It's electric. And so we do have to pull different parameters. And these integrations they really run the gamut, right? So SAE does have a J1939 standard for electric vehicles. And when an EV OEM utilizes that, it's great, right? It's relatively easy to pull. When they don't, which happens maybe half the time, I would say, then we have to really dig deep and get into the engineering of, how do we support this? And, in many cases, it's very custom implementations that our engineers have to go through to support these vehicles. And yeah, it is complex, it is time consuming and costly, but Geotab does believe that electric vehicles are going to play a big part in the future of transportation here in North America and throughout the world. And so we're investing very heavily in them. But I do agree with you, Mike. It is very unique, some of the things we've seen over the years in EV.
Yeah, and I would sense too, when you brought up standards, so we've got a lot of work to do on electric vehicles around charging standards, on truck standards, training and maintenance standards or recommended practices like we might see out of TMC. And I guess in the early days, some of these, particularly the startup manufacturers, whether building or rebuilding trucks to become electric, they may just decide I'm not going to go through all of the efforts to standardize because, they're a startup. Who knows if they're going to make it. So all of us sort of have to work with them, as these evolve. That's an interesting point you brought up. Another project that NACFE and Geotab is working on that we're collaborating on is as you mentioned earlier, you got a whole bunch of data from all of your customers, and you're able to aggregate, and with that comes some, annihilate or, keep it confidential, some of that data, because you aggregate it at a higher level. And I know NACFE, along with our partner RMI and Geotab, are looking at what we call electrifiable routes, focusing on the regional haul tractors. So which trucks return to base and so forth and so on. And that's been a good project. And actually RMI recently received a DOE grant to continue that work, but highly valuable. And we'll be publishing some reports and some data out of that. But, that's a real world example of something you brought up a little while ago. You can talk to that just kind of in generalities for a minute, Scott.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, right, you look at this concept, right, of regional haul, and I think it's important to have numbers behind it, right? We talked about decision making and how data can lead you one way or another, right? I have a partner of mine, and he made a good comment to me. He's like, we can go really fast the wrong way, or we can go really fast the right way, right? And I think this sort of, can be seen here, right? A lot of a lot of infrastructure could be put in the wrong places without the right data. And so, that's why I think things like this are just so very valuable as we continue to, put electric charging stations and, build these corridors. So, yeah,
Yeah, it is. And something we're learning, I personally am learning. In trucking, we get kind of caught up in the longer haul, higher mileage routes. Trucking is 400 or 500 miles a day. It's cross country. It's sleeping truck stops. And, this data, and particularly the data in this project, is teaching me that there are a lot of trucks, maybe not a majority, but there are a good number of trucks that run, heavy routes, heavy duty tractors, but they only do 100 to 200 miles or less a day. And so those are electrifiable routes right now. And some of these tractors we're getting can clearly do that. Now we got other total cost of ownership challenges there, but it's just a part of the business that I'll just say myself, I didn't know it existed as much as it does. And, it's beverage, it's drayage, it's a lot of these applications. So the data's proven that there is a place to take these, in this case, electric trucks faster.
At the end of the day, right, there's a lot of things contributing to those shorter routes, right? ELD from several years ago, right? And then also driver shortages, right? There's a lot of drivers who want to be home every night. So I think that hub and spoke is continuing to be condensed over time as these shippers, plan out or these fleets plan out their routes. So
I always like to end, with something consistent in all these podcasts, like I started, and that is just, given your role and your experience, what's some advice you give for folks out maybe listening that, maybe they're newer to the industry or maybe they've been here a while, but so much is changing and so much is going on. What sort of some wisdom you'd impart on the audience here? Yeah,
so specifically with data, and I mentioned this quickly earlier in the conversation, but I'd strongly recommend that fleets continue to push the boundaries of what is possible. I'm personally a big fan of the Freakonomics books, and one of my favorite quotes is "Fail fast, fail cheap." You might have 9 failures, but the 10th one is something that can have a dramatic impact on your business or, frankly, the industry as a whole. So, really, at the end of the day, keep innovating and keep pushing that envelope.
Thanks for doing this, Scott. Best to you, and have a good day.
Thanks, Mike, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Freight Efficiency with NACFE's Mike Roth and Friends.